Soldiers, no poor sap ever won a war by dying for his country. He won it by being all that he can be. Damn the torpedoes, or give me death. Eternal vigilance is the price of duty. And to the victors go the spoils. So remember, you are the best, of the few, and the proud. So ask not what your country can do for you, only regret that you have but one life to live.
I am from beyond. Listen, and all you desire will be yours. Welcome to Spider-Dan and the Secret Wars. Prepare for Prattle.
It was a defensive exercise.
Yeah, best defense is a good offense. Or is it the other way around?
Welcome to Prattle World. I'm your host, the ever-amazing, ever-spectacular Spider-Dan. And in this podcast, I spotlight entertainment's best-kept secrets that a mainstream audience may find boring. And welcome to another edition of Secret Defenders, where I task guests to defend their favourite movies that are underrated, infamous, or obscure. And I'd like to wish everyone a happy new year. And it is time to put your toys away. It's time to box them back up. But there are some toys that don't want to stay in the box. And that's why I have brought the ever-amazing, attention-seeking geek, Ben Crampton, back to talk Small Soldiers. Welcome back, Ben.
Thank you. That would have been the worst trailer for that film ever. You saying that, so I'm glad they went in a different direction.
Yeah, I'm not a marketing man. You can tell by all the views I get on my podcast. You can tell.
It was great. I appreciated it. Thank you very much for having me back. It's good to be back on the show. We've had some great weird chats in the past.
We have, and I'm sure this will be very much the same.
Yes, weird chats. That's the new name of your podcast.
Weird chats with weird shit.
And weird people.
And weird people. I mean, they're the best people for me. But I realised as well, Ben, that I hadn't done one of these. This kind of version of the podcast I believe, built the channel and kind of has the idea of the underrated kind of cults, exploitation, all that sort of stuff. This is what it's all about. And I felt I didn't realise that I'd done so many bloody top fives and other stuff. I hadn't done one of these since, I think, last September, not this September just gone, but the previous September, as far as I'm aware, a proper one anyway. So I really wanted to get back to that, and I'm really glad it's you that I'm bringing it back with.
Well, I have various options for this. I like to think that I've got a bit of a penchant for the underrated or the obscure film. Now, the irony, I think, with this film, Small Soldiers, is it was probably meant to be the absolute opposite. It was meant to be mainstream. I very much think they intended for it to be a cultural phenomenon and, selling toys for years and whatnot. But that didn't quite happen.
No, I'm sure we'll get into that. But for people that may not have ever seen it, I saw this as a child. I was about 10 at the time when it came out, roughly. It was kind of the right age. I think I was the right kind of age to see the film, and I got well into it. I got well into the idea of the toys and everything. I loved it at the time. I was totally sold. A slightly more twisted adult version of Toy Story. But then again, it's I think to say that is kind of reductive to the film. It's kind of not fair to call it that. But yeah, why don't you tell people about the plot as best you can?
Okay, so brief summary then. So this film came out in 1998, directed by Joe Dante, none other than the Gremlins and Gremlins 2 director, DreamWorks Universal film, and it is essentially the story of a toy company where one of the idiots who works for the toy company puts in a very kind of powerful chip into the toy, because the toy company is basically owned by a weapons manufacturer called Globatech. So he puts in this chip, which is the X1000, into his new toys in the hope that it would advance them. This chip, I still don't really understand what the chip does, but it advances things, basically. I don't know. And lo and behold, this chip makes these toys sentient to an extent, and they kind of gain a consciousness and like a robot. They as a result they wreak havoc in a suburban neighborhood, and hilarity and action ensues. That is my summary of Small Soldiers.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty solid kind of basic sum up of the plot. We need to know, like you said, this film didn't do that well. It wasn't that well reviewed. Didn't make as much money. It does have a kind of cult following with, I know you're very into your toys and stuff and your collectibles, and there is a lot of kind of, as a fan group out there that kind of make their own small soldiers, because they've never really been like the ones in the film, so they kind of construct it and make them and 3D print them and stuff and share all that. This kind of almost underground or small soldiers subculture, if you will. So when you saw it as a kid, how did you get into it? Did you like it as a kid, or?
Yeah, so I would have been 9 when this came out, and again, same as you. That's probably the age where I loved, monsters and kind of, hideous things and big, silly looking toys. And, this film offered that in abundance with the Gorgonites. So I was always probably more drawn to the Gorgonites. As a kid, I would always choose the monster toy over the action man. So of course you have the Commando Elite, who are probably more your kind of G.I. Joe action man toys, whereas I was always into, the He-Man villains and monsters, and with Power Rangers, it was probably always the monster that I liked. So I was drawn. The Gorgonites were what really, really drew me in, and I just loved this film. I think it just perfectly, tapped into a 9-year-old boy's kind of, the film. I think is such a cardboard cutout family movie. Like, I don't think you can criticize it any more than you could any other kind of well-known family movie, because it literally has the same structure as 20, 30, 40 other successful films. It's that nerdy boy, lusting over the pretty neighbor who, of course, only dates older boys.
I mean, that was standard back in my day. Whenever I wanted to talk to girls, they were like, "No, I'm going out. I'm only 10, but I'm going out with someone in high school." I'm like, I mean, it's weird. It's weird, but that's what happened.
Oh yeah, and so I always would, was drawn to those types of characters in films, and so I think I very much rooted for the hero of the story. In terms of the kind of the toys, they just completely captured my imagination. I don't think there's any kid that doesn't play with a toy and imagine that it is real. When you are playing, when you are completely immersifying yourself in play, you're bringing these things to life in your head. So this was a film that did that for you, and I just kind of, I just think it tapped into that perfectly, really, for me. And I think as I've got older, the film has always resonated with me on a nostalgic level. But beyond that, as I've got even older, it's gone beyond nostalgia now, where I actually think, no, do you know what? This is a great film. And should be celebrated as much as your Gremlins or your Jumanji or whatever it may be. So I think my relationship with the film has definitely evolved. But as a kid, it was plain and simple. It was explosions. It was funny monsters, because whilst the jokes maybe don't land as much now, when I was a kid, I forget what his name is, Slampist, I think, him. Saying sanctuary.
Yeah.
That was killer. That was a killer joke for me. And the Insaniac one that is kind of the Gobby one.
Yeah.
his little lines, made me laugh, and I was completely endeared to Archer, the leader of the Gorgonites. And I think the Commando Elite just served as the perfect bad guys, because I was kind of always, and we're getting deep now, Dan.
Go for it.
We're getting Small Soldiers deep.
Let's delve.
But I think as a kid, I was the outcast. I was and we spoke about this before in terms of underrated X-Men and why we both love mutants and stuff. But it was the well-built, good at sport, good at whatever guys at school that I just didn't have a connection with, or might have even been bullied by. So in this film, them kind of painting the soldier boys, the jarheads, the big muscly kind of guys as the bad guys, and the kind of freaks and stuff as the heroes, that is what really kind of draws me in. And yeah, I think there is a link to, your X-Men and the such with that as well. So yeah, that's maybe not something I've ever spoke about with my psychiatrist, Small Soldiers, but maybe I should do that more.
I really relate to the Gorgonites, and I'm like, let's delve into that. Yeah, just let's unpack that. Actually, can we talk about your mum or your dad? No. Let's not. Let's talk about more of the Gorgonite thing. Why are you?
Let's be honest. This is therapy, isn't it? I'm just.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's just called a podcast.
No, it's just getting our feelings and emotions out. Here's a question. Again, probably going a bit deep. Did your parents ever, when you got to a certain age, say, I don't know, 15, 16, 17, 21, did they ever ask you to put away your playthings, to put away your toys?
I don't think they ever did, I grew up with a single mom who, boyfriends, husbands came and went. And I just saw my dad at the weekend and that. So I think maybe if I lived with my dad, he might have. But then my dad is a bit of a collector anyway. Like he collects like his mermaids, and he's a drag racer. So I don't like cars, but he collects like models of cars and things. So I think he kind of gets it, and would never have told me to kind of put that away. And my mum just was. She just kind of encouraged that creativity, I guess. And so there was never really that stage. However, I still, to this day, am adamant my mum sold my Millennium Falcon, because it just kind of disappeared at some point, and I don't know how or why. So I'm not pointing fingers, but I'm just saying.
Still, there's suspicion there. I got told by my dad. Basically, he said, I think it was around kind of 2002, so I'm guessing I was kind of like 15.
You're pretending like you don't know, but really you're like, it was March 20th.
Yes, it was
Monday,
March
2002.
2020. No, because I remember I bought the Spider-Man figures from the movie, and I think it was a little after. It might have been a little after that, so maybe a year or so after that. But I remember him saying, "You'll never get any girls if you play with toys. You'll never be with anyone. They'll just think you're a child. You need to grow up." And I was like, "Okay, Dad, I listened, and I gave them all away. You must be right. I've got to have that normal, standard kind of Rockwellian 4.5.1 kids or whatever it is. So I gave them all away, and lo and behold, I still can't get a girlfriend. So that worked out, didn't it, Dad? Cheers."
He was wrong either way.
He was wrong. Yes. So yeah, and now I don't think he's that bothered. But at the time, I was I was a little devastated. But you listen to your parents and get on. Anyway, we've delved into our childhood far too much. So this is very Joe Dante, this film. Like, it's got all of the kind of Joe Dante-isms. You've got that kind of suburban, small town, Hamlet kind of thing that looks like it could be set in the 50s. You've got little creatures attacking people in kitchens. You've got You've got Robert Picardo. He's in it. He's in pretty much every Joe Dante movie. He's the guy who knows all the stuff about the chips.
Right. Yeah.
And there's even references to gremlins and piranha in it. Like there's like a statue of a piranha, and there's a gremlin skull on the desk, and you can see Gizmo in the trash. Or
I was going to say Gizmo in the trash. Yeah, it's very Joe Dante. I think he does satire quite well.
Yes.
And the opening of this film has a kind of Globotech infomercial, and I just think it's brilliant satire. Like it's a weapons manufacturer taking over a toy company. Like it's that just as a concept is funny, isn't it? And it really kind of hams that up, and I think he always does that well. And he always kind of plays on their small scale adventures or events. Really, these would be global, like
world news.
World news. These creatures or toys that come to life. This is. I mean,
it's scary implications because you've effectively created life. You know what I mean? It is. They are alive. They are. They have intelligence. They can learn. Can make decisions. They can. They even comment on how that is life. What they've created, artificial life, but it is still, arguably life. They evolve, they change, they learn. And that has, they don't really go into that too much within the film. I think there's a lot of ideas in the film that are kind of half baked. Like the satire at the beginning is really strong, but then sometimes I think it loses it somewhere.
Oh, it drops off massively, I think.
Yeah.
That you look at what's that? Starship Troopers. Now that is a film that committed to the satire side of it, and you almost wish that was the case with this. Is that it committed for longer to that, or at least kind of had intervals of it.
The opening is very RoboCop for me, with the infomercial, with the construction of the toy. Even the Jerry Goldsmith scores has little RoboCop leanings, or even like a little bit like almost it's making fun of RoboCop and Terminator as well. I get a little bit of a vibe of that at the beginning. But yeah, I think there's a lot of kind of films it kind of riffs on as well. Like Frankenstein is like riffed almost all the way through, with the character of Freakenstein, and then all the Gwendy dolls, which is probably my favorite scene in the film.
And it's the score from Bride of Frankenstein that is playing in the background as the Gwendy dolls are made. And then obviously, is it Kit Callaghan or whatever, he comes out with "It's alive, it's alive." I mean, I'm a massive Frankenstein fan, so maybe again that was something else that drew me into it subconsciously. Maybe, I'm not sure. You're saying about the opening there, they 3D print these toys, right? I'm pretty sure in 1998, like 3D printing wasn't a thing. Like. To do that.
No.
So there we go. This film is ahead of its time.
Well, yeah, I think it is quite prescient because now we have all these Bluetooth toys. Everything's connected. You've got Alexa is effectively, you could argue Alexa is a toy. It's an information machine, but it does the same things. It will talk back to you, it will communicate, it will give you answers. It learns from you. It learns when you want alarms set. It learns your tastes in music. Blah blah blah. It was ahead of its time. Even you've got like remote controlled, baby Yodas and BB-8s and things like that. That all kind of almost comes from that. And then even look at look at the Child's Play movie, the most recent Child's Play movie, the remake. I mean, that goes whole hog with this kind of idea. Like, I almost wish that Small Soldiers went as far as that does, with the kind of AI and the kind of learning and the kind of learning it in the wrong way and then going, all out with the violence as well. Obviously,
I literally have written here basically buddy plot because rewatching it, over the last couple of weeks, I was just like, this is buddy. This is the buddy film. You're right. I think it, and it's one of the key criticisms I think for this film that people have is that it doesn't commit. It's torn between wanting to be a kids' film that is one big advert for a new toy line, and a teenager's film that is a satire, ripping on the fact that some films were made just to be toy adverts. And you know, I think if you'd increase the violence, because the weird thing is they kind of Commando Elite are like using chainsaws and nail guns and you know flaming tennis balls.
They're stabbing people. They're literally stabbing children in this film. Like got razor blades and stuff. Obviously they get it so much worse. But yeah.
But you never actually think that they're trying to kill them. Like that never comes across that I never actually felt like they were properly in jeopardy. Even as a kid, I was kind of like, yeah, they're okay.
Just give him a good kick, and then they'll go flying.
I think the lad gets cut once. I think is it Nick Nitro, the one with the mohawk? He cuts his hand and actually draws blood before he puts him into the trash compactor or whatever in the sink. We don't have those in the UK, right?
We don't. I think probably a good thing, I guess, because I imagine there'd be a lot of accidents and stuff. But yeah, I mean, I guess it would be good for drains, like if you put like foods going down the drain and stuff. I guess
it's the ultimate American thing to do, isn't it? Like I can't be bothered to scoop the food out of the sink, so I'm going to put a shredder in my sink.
Destroy. There will be no mercy for your food waste. Yeah. What did you think to is it Alan? I want to say Alan, the main character?
Alan, now shut up.
Yeah, Alan, now shut up, yeah.
Which again, that joke landed so hard when I was 9. Now, but yeah.
It's a bit of a cliche now that, you know, if someone says, what's your name? And they're like a robot or a monster or someone that doesn't really understand, and they'll be like, oh, that is also your surname, you know.
Now it would be more aggressive. It would be like, Alan, now shut the up. I think kids would find it funny.
Now, tell me what you thought of the lead character, because I'm going to tell you.
He's a flannel, isn't he? He is a wet flannel. I think there's a reason that some child actors never kind of evolved into adult actors, and he may be the perfect example of that. Because I very much think that Kirsten Dunst kind of holds the film to some extent, you know, with their scenes and stuff. I think the adults do an amazing job. I think with them kind of coming in, the parents, I think there's a lot of comedy there and stuff that is had. But yeah, he again, it's that I'm trying to think of another film, Hocus Pocus. It's like the same sort of kid. It's like the kind of a little bit grungy, moody nerd who, you know, got expelled from his last school and they've moved. And I supported him as a kid, but I don't think he was the one that I was relating to.
Yeah, I agree. Personally, I thought he was a bit bland, and he's talking about like being this bad boy and being kicked out of schools. And he's like, yeah, I did a bit of graffiti and set off a fire alarm. That was like very minor in my school. You would not get expelled for that. That happened every day.
Did you stab? That's what I would be asking.
Pretty much, yeah. Who did you you know, whose face did you kick in? Oh, he's related to a teacher. Yeah, you're expelled. You know, and to be honest, he never comes. You know, no fault of Dante's. To be fair, what happened to the film halfway through, he was trying to make kind of an edgy, kind of, you know, almost like a Gremlins again type film, like, you know, sort of violent for the teenagers, blah 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 blah. But they came back and said, actually, we're going to promote these as actual toys. We're going to market this as a kid's film. Can you kind of soften it a little bit? And he's like, well, I filmed like almost half of it, and we don't have the budget to refilm on any of this stuff. So I'll try. So that's why it kind of feels a little uneven. I think for me, the final half, I think you can tell, is definitely like pure Dante. Like that's the original vision, like, you know, the nail guns and all that other stuff. But I think it's the opening bit where it's like you've got the really wet love story. You know, he's got the 90s curtains, and it's just like, oh yeah. And I didn't. He's very bland, but I guess in a way that makes them somewhat relatable because they're just a blanket, a blank slate, tabula rasa type thing where, oh, that's me. I can be that person because he, likes toys and he's like that. Also, if what my dad said was true, if Kirsten Dunst came in and saw me, playing with toys, she would have walked straight back out.
She would have, true.
But yeah, no, she's great. I think her character's a bit more rounded, but then there's some moments where I'm like, that's a bit of a jump for you in logic, I think. But
she, at one point she just starts helping him in the shot. Or no, it's the bit where like he just takes her out back, like to the stock room, without any kind of comment on that, and I'm like, that's weird.
Yeah, you're a kid running a shop, and you've taken a girl into the back room.
Yeah, that unsettled me slightly, but yeah, no, he's and you can see. I mean, even the beginning of that film, that you've got the kind of satirical opening, the toy pitch meeting and stuff. All that is great, and then it's that kind of whimsical small town. Intro with the leaves, slowly blowing in the wind. For me, I think you should have kind of given it more of a sinister, and there's not a lot of build up really for those toys coming alive. I think you almost want to treat it as a horror. It still can be for a kid. God, there's so many films like that are still for kids, but are treated with the same kind of structure as a horror film. You have Archer could blink, and that's it, until the next scene, and then they move or whatever, and it just feels very kind of quick. And I do agree with you, it does feel a bit disjointed in that sense.
And again, I don't think it's necessarily Joe Dante's fault. I think it was quite interesting because it got rated as a PG-13, or what we'd call a 12A over in England. And because of this, there was a promotional kind of situation with Burger King's kind of kid meals. So they were selling toys and stuff, and it was very much a similar like McDonald's and Batman Returns situation where the film was a bit too dark and violent. So a lot of the stores refused to actually even sell the toys because it was in a promotion with the Rodeo burger at the time, which I can't ever remember eating. So it sounds quite delicious. So maybe they'll. Do
you remember the old Burger King chips though?
Oh, they're still good, man. They're still good.
They are still better, but they're not like they've had some kind of powder on them or something before. They were like flavored. It was R.I.P. Old Burger King fries.
Rest in peace. Rest in peace. I mean, they're only awful for us, but maybe now they're a little less awful. Who knows?
If this film got redone, would you rather it completely go into a kind of dark, version, or would you rather it be retold and really commit to it being more of a family, silly thing?
I think as an older, I think there's a big fan following, like we've discussed, online community and stuff for the film. So I think it would do better if it was a remake for an adult audience. So I think if they did go the Child's Play remake route and just push the envelope, obviously you could tell it in a different way, you could frame it a different way. I'm not sure how you'd do it, but I think I personally prefer that. But again, if they did want to market it to kids, I think that would be more difficult now because now we've got iPads and things that kids are more into. I think it would be harder to do that. But then again, Child's Play came out the other year, so maybe it's about the same. I don't know. But yeah, I think personally, as a fan, as a kid who grew up with it, I think I would like to see, a dark retelling. We've had, R-rated superhero movies, so, why not transfer that into the Small Soldiers family?
Yeah, franchise? You look at the Marvel films, and some of it is dark, and the themes and the way they're shot and everything. So I definitely think it could still be done with the same balance. And if anything, I think these days, I don't know, it's hard, isn't it? I think maybe we as kids didn't realize how kind of, I don't know, adult some of the things we were watching were.
Yeah.
And whereas these days, I think they play on that more, and kids do know, but it's not the lines are blurred, I think, more in terms of what kids can watch or be exposed to these days. So.
Yeah, I think it's tricky with the advent of like YouTube and monitoring what kind of kids watch and what they don't watch. I do think family films are a little softer than when we were kids, like 70s, 80s, 90s kind of kids films were a very different animal and often like really quite dark. But I like a good dark kids film. Like I appreciate that because, the kids, I think I always went for stuff that wasn't like talking down to me, that had a bit of an edge to it.
Yeah.
But again, I think like if this was an edgy teen, fire alarms and graffiti, and he's like, oh well, he's still very nice though. He's very nicey. He's like, I'll do this for you, Dad. And he's just like, oh, I'm not going to screw up again. Yeah, I'm like, I said that to my parents a million times, but like if he maybe set off the fire alarm and that had severely injured someone, or if he was involved in a gang or something like that, if you were really going to make him an edgy teen, then make him an edgy teen. Don't just
have him steal the toys. Do you know what I mean? Like have him steal the toys and then the toys come to life. Do you know? It's as simple as that. And
it's almost like you've done a bad thing and now you're being punished because the toys are there. You know what? Maybe that's the remake idea. Maybe he steals, the edgy teen steals them and he's like, I've got them all, haha, I've got them, I'll sell them on, or, make them Christmas gifts. And then they come to life and try and kill him. Who knows? Who knows? It's
the moral of the story, kids, is don't steal small soldier toys.
Steal anything or you'll get killed.
That was what I was always taught, and I never stole a penny sweet. So
there you go.
But, it's got to be said, Dan.
Yes,
Stan Winston's work in this film is phenomenal. Like, it's such a shame that I think as a final kind of result, there's probably only about a third of the effects that are practical. And then I think they filled a lot of the gaps with CGI just because it's easier. But apparently Stan Winston built a lot of things that could do a lot of the stuff that they ended up doing in CGI. So, they in the end, I think it's only really those kind of close-up shots where, they use the puppets. I just think and I think for me as a kid, you're obviously not cynical in terms of like, oh, that's obviously CGI and stuff. But even then, it's the practical effects that capture my imagination more than those physical. And it's still the same now. I'm 31 years old. I'm watching The Mandalorian, and it's the puppets that capture my imagination, or the costumes that capture my imagination more than a big effect scene. And his work's really good at it. Really good.
I will say this in the defense of the CG, it was done by ILM, like early days ILM, Industrial Light and Magic. So if you were going to get anyone to do CGI at that time, those are the guys. And even to this day, they're still the guys. Even probably on Mandalorian, it's probably more than like the ILM, and they're.
It's not terrible, the CGI. Like
no, it's not.
I do 1998. We're talking,
It does hold up better than I thought it would. But I agree with you. I think the practical effects are much better. Like the scene where like Archer's being licked by the cat. Obviously they put somebody on Archer for the cat to lick him, but that's a nice moment, and you can feel that, and it's a sweet moment, and you can see the expression on Archer's face that he's enjoying the licking from the cat. The good, he's getting a good licking.
Oh God!
Oh dear!
Yeah,
but no,
it's a shame that we couldn't have had more. But then, I think the cost of practical effects as well. But it's just great. Like I love one of the key moments. I think is when they burst out of the garage. And maybe the key moment of the film for me is when the Commando Elite burst out the garage with who is it? Edwin? What's his name?
Was it War?
Anyway, yeah. and they're sat on these vehicles that they've kind of comprised together with chainsaws and other weapons and stuff, and they're obviously just the kind of puppets on the top, and it looks so kind of rubbish, but they're just toys that have come to life. Do you know what I mean? They don't need to look good. Do you know what I mean? Like a toy only has so many points of articulation. So it looks good when you kind of see them jolting around, and I just and I think on the Commando Elite especially, some of those characters, what's his name? Link Static. Which is a great name. His face is so creepy when they use the puppetry, and he's almost got like a Joker-like face. Yeah, and because all of those guys were apparently molded slightly on the people they were voiced by. So, and the best group of names, like it's like a porn movie, like Nick Nitro, Butch Meat Hook, Link Static, Brick Bazooka, and Kip Killigan. Yeah, just superb.
To be fair, those designs look like they could be in a porn film, or you would see someone who looked like them.
Well, actually, the Gorgonites are pretty erotic as well. Slam fist.
Oh,
and punch it and scratch it. It just sounds like a great porn.
I mean, I was always a fan of the design of Insaniac. He was, and spinning around. He's like a kind of he's almost like Robin Williams meets the Tasmanian Devil.
Yeah.
He's reeling off all these like one-liners and like a comedy kind of way, like a stand-up way, while also it's like spinning around and be like, But I also
the best way to cover up a bad joke is just to like spin your way out of the situation, just like, hey, no, who's there? Nobody. I'm lonely. And then like spin around.
Oh God. Like it's. I will say this. It's got one of the best casts I've seen on a film as well. So the idea initially for the Commando Elite, they actually wanted the cast of Predator to reprise their roles, which I thought would have been amazing, but didn't come off. So they decided instead to do The Dirty Dozen, which is another great film, like war film. So they pretty much got the whole cast. There was one I think was supposed to be in it, but he died. And then Bruce Dern from the Burbs, another Joe Dante film, he took that role. So you've got like Ernest Borgnine, George Kennedy, Jim Brown. So they all kind of reprise their roles in a way while playing these soldiers. And like we said, obviously kind of based on that G.I. Joe mold but also like it's almost like a jingoistic type thing where it's like, yeah, rah, rah, military. There's a brilliant speech that Chip Hazard gives in a very kind of George Patton style. He's got there's a big American flag in the toy store made out.
Yeah, the jigsaw,
which I think is genius. And it's basically he's just picking phrases out of like famous military films and speeches. So they'd be like, damn the torpedoes, and don't ask what your country can do for you. It's really like a hodgepodge of kind of almost like the film a little bit, a bit of a hodgepodge patchwork kind of thing going on.
Well, it wasn't until very recently that I clocked that, Chip Hazard is Tommy Lee Jones. Like as a kid, I never put that together that, Kay was, Chip Hazard. Yeah. If I did, that would have blown my mind, I'm sure. But I mean, now obviously when you watch the film as an adult and you're so familiar with Tommy Lee Jones, you close your eyes and it's just fantastic. And I think he's clearly having a lot of fun with it as well, because I think it's quite well known, isn't it, that he doesn't have a lot of fun sometimes making films.
There's that picture of him at an awards ceremony, and I don't think I've ever seen a more miserable man in my life. It's like the Oscars or Emmys or something like that, and he's just like,
I genuinely would pay to be a fly on the wall for some of the fallouts that there were behind the scenes on Batman, just with him arguing with Jim Carrey in that ridiculous makeup, like trying to be serious with half a pink face.
He said, I think I remember him, Jim Carrey said that he came up to him one day and he said, I cannot sanction your buffoonery. But then goes off and gives that performance of Two-Face.
Well, exactly. Oh, yes. And Chip Hazard, for that matter. To be fair,
go on.
Well, I'm just getting excited while we're speaking about cast, because another thing I never realised is Gwendy. Right, the Gwendy dolls only have two voices, right? Gwendy Doll 1, Gwendy Doll 2. You know that? Do you know this?
I do, but go on.
Christina Ricci and Sarah Michelle Gellar, like two of my pin-ups, throughout my whole life. These are, I mean, it's Wednesday and it's Buffy. Do you know what I mean? Like I don't need to elaborate any more than that. And I just never realized that. And watching it again, I think you can definitely recognize Sarah Michelle Gellar, but I think Christina Ricci's a little bit hard. She's really gone for it on that record, in that recording session, because I still even now struggle to kind of pick out which one is
her. Yeah, I do as well. But I love that because obviously during the film the Commandos lose Nitro, they take his chip and kind of have that, like we said, the Bride of Frankenstein type experiment. And I'll be honest, it's so disturbing. Like even all their faces are like distorted and melted, and they're all kind of naked, and they've got blades coming out their arms and stuff.
Burnt tits.
Pretty much. Yeah. And then they're speaking in these like really cliche like Valley Girl kind of like, oh my god, my hair, or let's go to the mall, that sort of kind of Valley Girl type talk, which kind of makes it even more disturbing, but also it's kind of like a dig at Barbie, I think, because that is the up until recently, like Barbie's become a lot more kind of inclusive with body types and different kind of racial versions of Barbie, black, Hispanic Barbie, you name it. I think there's even transgender Barbies now, which is great stuff. But yeah, back in the day, that was the image of Barbie. And again, it's like kind of a send up of G.I. Joe with the Commando Elite as well. But yeah, the Gwendys are my favorite bit because they're just so bizarre, and all the different like iterations. There's like an astronaut Gwendy and a catsuit Gwendy. But yeah, and the whole sequence is something out of something out of like Sid from Toy Story's nightmares, I imagine. That's very kind of a similar, like the Frankenstein monster toys come after the humans. So there is a lot of similar, and there's even that dog chase bit as well. It kind of reminds me of Toy Story as well. I think there will always be comparisons and parallels, but and another thing as well is I do think the music's used very well. The music they do use throughout the film. They even got the rights to a Led Zeppelin song, which baffles me because they're really hard to let anyone use their music. They will like almost never give out their rights, no matter what they ask and or do. Even Jack Black had to make a special video saying, "Please give us your music for the School of Rock, or it just won't work." And then they relented. But why this film or why that scene just baffles me. I have no idea.
Because there's a line, isn't there, where Kirsten Dunst's character says, "Oh, I'm a massive Led Zeppelin fan," and he's like, "Oh my god, marry me." Maybe that was it. Maybe that's all it took.
Okay. That's her character, definitely.
Yeah.
But one thing that did annoy me, I mentioned this to you when I messaged you, and while I was watching it, is so she gets freed by Alan and Archer because she's tied up, and there's kind of like an ISIS torture video that they sent to Alan and Archer.
Yeah, it's very Joker, isn't it? Like,
yeah, a little disturbing. And but they managed to a bit of subterfuge, but they do manage to free her. And then they just start kicking the shit out of the Gwendys, like just absolutely. She's got like one of those batons, so she's smacking. And then she goes, "Oh, I always hated these things." And I'm like, why collect them then? Why have this massive collection of these dolls? Why are you spending all your money and all your parents' money on getting these frigging dolls when you don't like them? Doesn't make any sense.
She's chatting shit. She was just trying to show off, I think. That's why she didn't let the older guy come in to touch her, because she didn't want him to see her doll collection. That's the reason, I reckon.
Yeah.
I definitely think it's one of the highlights of the film, and again, I think it's that the best bits of this film are the things that are satirical, and I think that is obviously a big piss take of Barbie and the kind of culture around Barbie. And yeah, Toy Story 2, I think it is, where they come across the Barbies in the aisle. Now, what year was Toy Story 2?
I couldn't tell you, I'll be honest, not off the top of my head.
Not off the top of my head, but I'm just trying to think who did it first, because it's very similar in the way that they're almost pointing fun at how a Barbie would be if they came to life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Personality they would have.
Yeah, which is just not, no one is like that. Do you know what I mean? And no woman is like that. And I think that's the scary thing about Barbie back in the day, is that that's what these toy companies, were painting women as, which is awful. I love the bit
very much the kind of the male gaze or the idealized form.
Oh yeah,
didn't they say something like if a woman had the measurements of Barbie, she would just topple over, something like that?
I think that's the case for a lot of comic book characters as well. But topple forward, a lot of them, I think. But I love the bit where she whacks one of them and I think it says something like, "Does this mean we're finished now?" or something. It's brilliant. It is brilliant, and also horrific. And again, I think that's another moment that if you wanted to take down a darker route, you really could. I mean, they went pretty dark with it already, I think. And again, Stan Winston's work in terms of the transformation, where that's all practical, that scene. When they're kind of being raised up, and I don't even know what they're being put into, but they put into like a shaker at one point, and
it's almost like a baking tray for like muffins. and then it's kind of like just shocks them with the chip, and it's like, bleh! And then I just
think, and it makes no sense. Like scientifically makes no sense, this film, but it's as a kid, this was the stuff I lapped up, and I think just watching it back over and the nostalgia, it's almost like the more you learn about this film, the more it means to me. Like the Sarah Michelle Gellar and Christina Ricci thing, like I didn't know that before. Now I know that, it's like it means even more to me now. David Cross as well. Cross,
I'm glad you mentioned it.
Delivers every time, and he is great. It's almost like I would have almost have preferred him to be the only representative from that toy company, and him to have been the one who put the chip in. I'm not that drawn to the other guy.
I think it's Jay Moore or Moore, something like that.
I'm just not really drawn to him, or what his kind of angle is, really.
Yeah, it's kind of a little too. I think he's a little too close to Dennis Leary's character, who I really liked.
Mars.
Yeah, I've just anything like the pure satire elements for me, like the unfiltered satire elements are, the Dennis Leary's character. Like it's just like business, big business, marketing. How can we sell this? What money can we make? Don't call it. I love the line where he says, "Don't call it violence, call it action." Because that happens quite a lot, I think, in the marketing of violent, toys, and again, this peaceful kind of like learning toy that could teach kids, is turned into just a villain for these kind of macho, aggressive, kind of violent, jingoistic, rah rah America, war is good, kind of, and it critiques kind of the the ideas behind war and stuff. But then I think
it's still relevant now, isn't it? Let's be honest. Like, I mean, with that in mind, I'm just kind of spitballing in my head now how you could very much make this relevant with some tweaks, to today. I
mean, it's a satire on like big businesses and corporations taking over, and again, like Alan's dad, I can't remember the actor's name, but he's in absolutely everything. It did remind me of Transformers a bit, because they've got the like embarrassing parents, and he's one of the embarrassing.
Well, I'm pretty sure he's the same character.
Probably.
In this film than he is in Transformers. Like, I think, Shia LaBeouf was the brother that's not in this film. And he's the guy's just constantly tortured by Hasbro properties.
Speaking of Stan Winston, Stan Winston Studios actually visited Hasbro to get an idea on how they make the toys, what's involved, the process. So when they were making their puppets, they could kind of go in line with the ideas behind, making action figures as well to get the idea, which I thought was a cool bit of kind of research, because where else would you go but Hasbro to look at these kind of things? But yeah, I think there's a lot of ideas floating around, like I said, but all of them are not, I just felt like you needed to kind of follow through on these ideas. Like pick one. Are you critiquing the toy business? Are you critiquing war? Are you critiquing war toys? Is this, there's so many kind of ideas. Consumerism, marketing. There's so much stuff that just one of those would have been really good to kind of home in on. But I don't think they ever really kind of go, this is what the film's about. This is what you should think. This is how you should think. And I guess, in some ways, like, war is quite a complex issue to talk about and to discuss. So I think within a kid's film, it would be hard to make that kind of assessment. But, you've
hit the nail on the head there as well within a kid's film. I think that's why none of those themes could be fully committed to, because ultimately it is a kid's film. Even if it was a teenager's film, none of those themes could fully be committed to. And I think in the 90s, it would have been very odd to have had an adult film with toys that come to life. Whereas now we're a little bit more used to such kind of abstract ideas. But I think, although, Child's Play was around, so I guess you could,
Yeah. No, I know.
I've got to say as well, you mentioned at the beginning about this underground of Small Soldiers fans. I can't find this underground so eBay has all the old kind of merch on there, but the old Small Soldiers merch, and I used to own a lot of these figures. They're mainly kind of like 1/12 scale, kind of 6-inch, versions of the characters. I think there are some 12-inch versions of Chip Hazard and Archer, but the quality is not great. Do you know what I mean? The stuff goes for probably a lot more than it did in the day, but we're still not talking, everything's kind of under 100 odd quid. So the merchandise is out there in terms of that stuff, but I don't want that stuff. I want the actual figures from the film. I want to have like a nice big, 15-inch slam fist in my hand, and they've never gone into that. And you say people are making them and stuff. Etsy, I can't find any on Etsy. So it really is an underground if people are making these. Now, there is one like replica prop, as if it's come from the film on eBay in Japan. Guess how much?
Oh, £500.
It's about $2,000.
Fuck off! Really?
Over £2,000. Yeah, and it looks stunning. It's like like a statue type replica thing. But I just think, the company Hot Toys.
Yes.
Sideshow Collectibles. They are missing a trick. I'm telling you, man. If they did a full Small Soldiers range,
I think it would sell.
You sell it at Hot Toys rates, which is anything between kind of £200 to £400. People would buy that. Like, I'd be straight on that. I really would. Like,
even like quality, like really real good quality 6-inch figures that a lot of companies do, like Japan and, like you say, Sideshow, Hasbro to a lesser extent, like proper quality ones.
NECA do 6-inch. Yeah,
like that. Those companies, like I don't know why the license hasn't been sold in that way.
No.
Because it even if you're not a fan of the film, I think the designs are good. I think the characters look cool. I think they look great. The Gorgonites and the Small Soldiers themselves, the Commando Elite, the designs are like you said, Stan Winston designed them. The Stan Winston studio designed them, and they've designed Predator and Iron Man, all those movies. They're not going to do a shit quality version of that. If they can get a mold or a design or the computer layout of it, why not? Because I even I would potentially think about it, because
mate, you would splash out on an Insaniac.
Absolutely, yeah,
for sure.
Spinning action. You better have 360 rotating waist, or I'm not buying it. It has to have.
I would literally clear my display cabinet. What is in there at the moment? Everything would get relegated if they did this range.
Yeah,
you can dream.
You can dream. I'm quite surprised you brought this to me, because I know how much of a fan you are of Toy Story. But then I thought about it, and then I went, no, but actually, he also loves the Child's Play movies as well. So this is kind of like the middle ground. This is somewhere between the two franchises. That this is the marriage of the two, so to speak.
And I think it does come down to, it's interesting you say that, and I step back and I go, oh gosh, yeah, I actually like a lot of films that are about toys coming to life, and I think that's because as a kid, ultimately, that was my kind of get out. It was toys, and I'm not that bright academically. I've come to terms with it, guys. Don't worry.
Me too.
and looking back at the old teachers' reports and things, it was always like, Ben is very creative. Ben has an amazing imagination and things like that. And for me, that was playing with toys was a way to kind of create stories. And who knows, it might have been the beginning of my storytelling tendencies, was doing that. And yeah, as I've got older, it's kind of manifested in a love for these films that are about characters coming to life and a story, coming to fruition around that. So yeah, it's this really has been a great therapy session, Dan.
Well, it's not over yet. It's not over yet. So for me, I think I would have liked a little bit more focus on, for me, I'm a big Transformers fan. I really love the Transformers. I liked it as a kid. I liked Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles as well. But with the film, I'm not a fan of the Transformers movies, apart from the classic original animated movie. I am not really a big fan of the Michael Bay stuff. I thought Bumblebee
where they killed Optimus Prime.
That's the one. That's the controversial. Well, I mean, he still killed him in the Michael Bay movies and in the comics. So
yeah, but you cared less. Let's be honest.
Yeah, true. He didn't turn grey, did he? He didn't go take the.
Everyone should turn grey when they die, just to make it clear.
Instantly. I don't. Yeah, just so I know, I can be like, don't touch them. Bloody hell! As if they're dead now. It'd be a lot easier as an indicator. Go, okay.
But then I'd be grey, and people would be like, "What? But you're still walking?" I'll be like, "Yeah, but I'm dead inside."
Just around the center, my soul is dying. I'm brain dead. I'm technically brain dead. But I kind of felt like I wanted a bit more time. We spent a lot of time with Kirsten Dunst, who I don't think is bad. Like you said, I think she's quite good in this, even though she's not given a lot. And I didn't, really like watching it back now as an adult. I just don't like Alan. I just can't get behind Alan. I'd rather the film have been about Dick Miller. I love Dick Miller. I think he's great. And again, he's another, Joe Dante check off list. He's there. I love him in everything. I watched the documentary about his life and his career after he died. It's an amazing career he's had. A career of just bit parts. He's in Terminator, Gremlins, all the kind of core.
I'd be so cool with that though, because you go to set for 2-3 days, and then you're in that film. You are IMDb'd as being in that film, and that film goes down in absolute history. I would be absolutely fine with having his career
just being that guy. I mean, the documentary is called, I do recommend the documentary is called That Guy Dick Miller, because you always see him in films in a small role and then he disappears. But again, like you said, like I've always, a lot of people have talk about the big name actors like Al Pacino and Robert De Niro. I've never really looked at them. Like I like the performances and in certain films. I've never been like they're the God's gift to acting. Like for me, it's always been the slightly underappreciated actors like Dennis Hopper or Lance Henriksen or Robert Englund, or those kind of mid-range kind of character actors. I've always kind of drawn to them. Like I always thought, if I make it big and I get in at least one proper cult film, like that, I could just go to conventions for the rest of my life. Like I could just do that. Keep getting the odd part, but also
Stormtrooper number 3.
Yeah, but I also never really wanted to be when I was acting. I was never really wanting to be the lead part because I always find them the most dull. And it kind of obviously it takes that's an important character and takes the story forward. But I never found them that interesting because their past and their future is kind of laid out. If I'm the quirky man in the market in Aladdin or something like that, like I can make up the backstory, I can make up the future story, I can add all these quirky elements. I always like the bit parts, and that's usually what I was cast as. It was usually like a mentor or a bloody smack addict, drug dealer, villain, all those kind of roles I always really enjoyed, and those are the ones I tended to be cast in. But I did often get like the odd, every so often kind of break out, but like I said, those for me are the best ones. Those are the best kind of actors, the best performances, and the best kind of characters. But yeah, I could never get into Abernathy. But anyway, I would prefer if we spent a little bit more time with the soldiers and with the parents, because within those parents, you've got Phil Hartman, God rest his soul, who died not long after this was filmed, I think. Sadly, he was, I believe he was shot. But yeah,
really?
Yeah, I think he was shot. And you'll recognise his voice, obviously, as Troy McClure.
I was going to, yeah. I mean, you can't not, can you?
Speaking of Simpsons as well,
yes.
We forgot to mention who the Gorgonites were voiced by, which is we had the cast of the Dirty Dozen, but for the Gorgonites we've got the cast of Spinal Tap. So you've got Harry Shearer in there, and Michael McKean, and the other guy I can't remember his name. But yeah, they're voicing all the kind of different characters. You've got Slamfist and all the other ones. They're all kind of voiced by those actors. So again, I think that again brings more love to me. Like you said, the more you know, the kind of better this film becomes in a way, and like the kind of
just little things like Mars. The main villain being called Mars or whatever. Like Mars is the god of war. Do you know what I mean? So it's like everything, even though this film had a lot of contradictions, shall we say, or conflicts of interest from different parties, everything was thought about, and it's almost like these are kind of like Easter eggs that before Easter eggs were even a thing, this film has Easter eggs. Like the Gremlin skull and toy and stuff in the trash. I'm pretty sure films back in the 90s didn't really ever do that, so it is ahead of its time, I think, in a lot of ways. And, I don't know why I brought it to the table. Nostalgia, maybe, the biggest part. But I think rewatching it, because I rewatched it literally yesterday for this, and I enjoyed it. I had a great time, and I still love this film, and that love has not gone away. And I genuinely cannot wait, to show it to my little girl when she's old enough and stuff. And I'll probably show her at like 9.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? Like, because that was the age I watched it, and I turned out all right. But again, I think I think that there's a lot of strong messaging in there. The anti-Barbie thing is great, and I mean, this will be a household as controversial as this may be to some people, but I am against a huge amount of elements of war. I'm being sort of careful with the way I phrase it, but I am. So the element of the film that kind of points it does point fun really at that kind of culture of war for the sake of war. So I definitely think in this household it will be up there with the 20 kids films that I kind of force upon my kid. It would just be rubbish.
You can alternate with Grace maybe, and you can, one for her, one for you, one for her, one for you.
Grace doesn't have any. Like Grace, my wife has one film that is close to her heart. And there, in a million years, you'll never guess it, Dan. So I'm just going to tell you.
Go on.
The House Bunny with Anna Faris.
So the one where she's like a Playboy bunny and she goes to college?
It's so weird. Like she has one film that is like really like if you said to her, what's your favourite film? The House Bunny. Like, I don't get it. I still don't. I'm married to her and I don't get that decision. But that is so, don't worry. I'll be providing the education and...
Probably for the best. Maybe I think you probably need to be definitely a certain age to appreciate the House Bunny. I think I've not seen it myself, but I've got the gist of the humour. But again, that's kind of like has a similar message to the kind of Gwendy's and the anti-Barbie.
Yeah, and it does. Yeah. It does. To be fair, it's very. Yeah, I had to sit through it it was her birthday, so that was the one day.
To sit through it.
That was the one day, and. It is very, the messaging of it is very kind of anti that and just be who you want to be sort of thing. And
exactly. But I'll be honest. I think you've defended the film very well while also appreciating the flaws in the film. I did enjoy it. I don't think I enjoyed it quite as much as you have rewatching it. I don't think I think I remember it more fondly than I watched it when I watched it. Again, it's a little bit of a mixed bag, but I did enjoy it. Like on the scale of enjoyment, it was leaning more towards that I was enjoying it definitely. But I could see, there's a lot of stuff, a lot of the kind of throwaway lines I was laughing at, like really stupid stuff, and the kind of rah stuff was quite funny. And then the Gorgonites being a bit like, oh, I hope we don't hit an iceberg, all that sort of stuff.
That is the last line of the film, literally. That is the last line of the film. Great.
They did hit an iceberg. It was called the box office.
Wow, how dare you? I like the bit where they he's looking out the window or whatever, and it's like what's outside the window, and it's like, oh, it's the garden. And then and they all like slowly go for it, and then and
what after? That bit reminded me. Have you seen the Mighty Boosh?
I've seen bits of it. I've never massively gone.
It reminded me of a bit in I think it's episode 2 called The Mutants, and they meet these group of like kind of Frankenstein monster mutants, and it was like you've got to be free. You've got to be free. What is freedom? And it's like it's out there in the wild. You've got to get it. You can do things. It can It's like, will there be bacon? Yes, there'll be bacon, but it's more about being free and doing what you want and not being trapped in a cage. I like bacon. It just reminds me.
It's AI, but ultimately the Gorgonites aren't that bright. Like, so you kind of like, well, what is that chip doing?
I mean, arguably, they're fairly cowardly. Almost up until the end, they're like,
no, they are. Like, that's literally that's what they say. Their rule is to hide and lose. They are built to hide and lose.
Programmed to hide and lose.
Yeah, and even at the end, they basically survived because they hid in that satellite dish that protected them from the wave that out there.
I love how shocked they are. They were like, "We won! It's just so bizarre.
So the question is, Dan, do we get a sequel? Because they obviously ride off into the sunset on that, which can I just say is a beautiful shot in the lake in the wooden toy boat. That is obviously a throwback to Alan's kind of relationship with his father and how his father likes the older toys, and you've got them all in there and all physical puppets, and it just and we're gonna hit an iceberg. I just think it's a great end to the film, but the question is, where did they go from then?
Well,
did they end up in
did they find
Sif's
Gorgon,
garden?
do you think? Maybe.
I'm going to go with no.
To be fair, I think they probably just lived out in the wild until their batteries ran down, probably. If they had batteries.
That's so depressing. What's wrong with you?
I'm sorry. It was meant to be a darker film, so maybe it was meant to have a slightly darker ending. Who knows? I should probably watch some deleted scenes and see what stuff they kind of excised from the film, and that'd be interesting to see.
Yeah,
I do.
I just think, you know what? Like a lot of 90s family movies or films that I've grown up with and hold really powerful nostalgia for me, like Small Soldiers. I think they have flaws and they're not perfect. And we could sit here and all day long. I mean, one of my other potential options for this, Dan, was Space Jam.
Okay.
And Christ, the amount of flaws with that. But it still kind of holds that nostalgia for me. And I guess it is, I am maybe cursed with the member berries.
Member
Small Soldiers, member Chip Hazard. Yeah, I maybe I am, result of that, but I'm okay with that, because it's great fun and it's kind of harmless as well. Like whilst it didn't, go dark or whatever, because of that, it is harmless. Like you watch it back and there's no real things that make you wince. And in some older, family films, there are lines or moments that make you wince, and there's none of that in it. So it is something that you can sit a 10-year-old down to watch.
I agree. There's nothing. It's not like when you watch Bill and Ted and they bring out the homophobic F word randomly. It's not. There's nothing that's aged that poorly. And I watch a lot of stuff that has aged very poorly. Apart from the '90s Curtin's hairdo, which I never could pull off. I never had long enough hair.
You can't pull off hair, mate.
I know. Look at it. It's just Well. You can't bloody talk. You're the same.
This is a choice, damn it. This is a choice.
Leave me alone. But no, I agree. Like it is quintessentially 90s, but it's not 90s in a bad way. Like it's not, there's nothing that's I've gone, oh, this is horrible, or the message is, it's lame, or it's, this never could happen, that sort of thing, or this would not happen nowadays. Yeah, there's not that much.
The point's fun itself at the end as well. I mentioned earlier about how Joe Dante's films often are kind of big events that don't really have any consequence, and it kind of points fun at that at the end because, Mars comes up to them and basically offers them a check, to keep their mouth shut about what happened. And, they accept it and they accept it, in kind of comedic fashion. And I like that because there's so many films out there where and Men in Black's the only one that like they have a plot device to be that. Do you know what I mean? The neuralizer means that but there's so many films out there where you're like, this would have got out, or something. There would have been consequences. So I was
going to bring up that scene. I really enjoy anything. To be honest, the two scenes that Dennis Leary in are great. I enjoy Dennis Leary. A lot of people probably won't, but I quite enjoy his weird mad rants and stuff. And him.
Oh, he's vile in this as well.
He's awful.
Brilliantly vile.
He's the villain of the piece, but he's an entertaining kind of corporate villain. And I love that. I realize we realize obviously that he's called Mars, but his secretary is called Miss Kegel.
Oh,
yeah!
Wow, that went over my head. But
she's called Miss Kegel.
Thanks for painting the picture.
I think that's probably an in joke. Come on,
that's weird.
Yeah, I was, unless that's like they just, surely that's planned. Surely someone wouldn't call someone Miss Kegel without knowing what a Kegel is. Because that's kind of the what was it, pelvic floor exercise, I think is probably the better term for it. But yeah, I thought that came out of nowhere, and I was like, okay. Sure.
And then we are thinking this film was progressive.
Yeah, maybe not that bit. But I did enjoy the kind of idea of Dennis Leary they're going, well, I've got a bad back and, this is traumatic. Okay, yeah, I'm fine. Thank you. I'll move that truck, because it's like it's got the big Globotech logo on it. I don't know if I just prefer all the other characters apart from the main character. I think that's the problem. I think if, like you said, if we were dealing with David Cross as the programmer and we followed his story, maybe more so, or a bit more kind of half and half, then maybe we could, or like you said, he steals the toys, something like that.
I'm going to list you some of my favourite films.
Okay.
Right, where I don't like the lead.
Okay.
Or I don't like the young boy, that was put there to relate to. Hocus Pocus. Don't like that kid.
Fair enough.
What? I'm stumped now.
What a list! What a massive list.
Jumanji.
Yeah.
The monkey boy annoys me. Didn't like. I never felt another Kirsten Dunst classic. I can't think, but there's loads. Okay, you put me on the spot. I'm trying to defend on the spot.
You put yourself on the spot. You're like, I've got a list, and I was like, okay, let's hear it out. And then you're like, I don't have a list.
My bark is often bigger than my bite. Yes,
that's fair. That's fair. I think you've successfully kind of defended the film. A lot of people won't agree with you, and I know I partially do. That's
fine. I mean, they're just wrong,
Yeah, of course, that's fine, and that's their. Some of them will feel like me that it's a bit of a mixed bag, but it is an enjoyable mixed bag. You know what? I'll say this about the film, that it is much like the character in the film, Freakenstein. It is very much a patchwork man of ideas and different tones. However, still a very enjoyable monster, I think is the best way I could put it. Like it's fun. It's is it a kids film? Is it a teens film? Who knows? But I know that I really enjoyed revisiting this. Even that daring moped chase in the film. And again, this is another weird Kirsten Dunst line. She goes, right, I'm going to go get the bike. And I'm like, it's not a bike. That's a moped. It's clearly a moped. Yeah. Whatever you want to call it. It's not a bike. It's not a motorbike.
What's weirder is that their little devices kept up with the moped. Like, it's like the
souped
useless... Up. Yeah, what, the moped or the things?
Well, I mean, the moped makes that impressive leap that looks absolutely ridiculous.
Oh yeah, it's like it sort of goes high, and then suddenly in the next shot is like on a kind of straight angle.
Yeah, it's kind of slightly lowering itself down very slowly. Yeah, I was just like,
editing team.
Like, I believe the toys came to life, but I didn't believe that jump at all. and then they make a joke like, "Oh, we'll drive next time," and like she's like, "Hey, you sexist prick!" Like, I just saved it.
We can both agree on one thing, Dan, and that is that two men in their early 30s need high-end collectibles of the 1998 classic Small Soldiers.
Yes, I
make it happen, Hot Toys.
Hot Toys, all the toys companies. If you're listening, I doubt you are, but who knows? Who knows who could be listening? But yeah, that's something we'd like to see. So I think there's a lot of fans out there who are building them and making them. There's a lot of YouTube videos I found, kind of from fans about Small Soldiers and things. So it was nice to do that kind of research and kind of hear the kind of the love, because there is a passion and it's not necessarily a franchise, but it's definitely it was a big deal at the time, and it was a huge kind of, because I went to see it. I didn't see it,
I think it was due to be. There was a Game Boy game, there was PlayStation games. As I said, I think the intention was for this to not be cult, shall I say? And over the years, it's gone into that cult status. Apparently, they were planning a remake, but I think Disney now potentially owns some of the trademarking for it, and they shut that down in 2018. I think.
Really?
So,
okay.
Go on.
Here's an idea. So Disney have just announced they are doing a animated Buzz Lightyear show, but it's not about the toy. It's not about the toy. It's about the person, Buzz Lightyear. Now, would you like a show about...
How excited am I on a scale of 1 to 10 for that? Can you imagine?
I can not even imagine your level of excitement. But my question is,
yes,
would you like a similar show, but featuring the Commando Elite and the Gorgonites?
Yeah. I mean, I was just trying to kind of question it in my head, like, do I need that? But I guess it's the same as a Buzz Lightyear thing. Like, the thing is with like Toy Story and stuff, like so much of the story and so much of the charm and humor and everything is the situation. And the situation is that they are toys that have come to life. The only, the thing with the Small Soldiers film is that not at one point do they address that they're toys, whereas in Toy Story they know that they're toys and they play dead and things like that, whereas in this film it's like they never at one point say, oh, we're toys. Do you know what I mean? So in a way, an action cinematic Gorgonites versus Commando Elite would kind of be very similar to Small Soldiers anyway, because the way the characters are interacting and stuff. But I guess it's hard, isn't it? Because the fun of these films is humans and the environment that they're interacting with. But yeah, I guess Buzz Lightyear is going to be a big thing to kind of see how they explore that, really. I mean, we're going off tangent here, kind of, still toys. But Buzz Lightyear had a cartoon called Buzz Lightyear and Star Command back in the day.
Oh yeah,
and it was great. So I am really hoping that they reprise some of his supporting cast from that, because they had like, I can't remember the names, but there was this female colleague, there was like a big dude, there was some like weird thing with like a floating head, and I'd love all of that. And I think Chris Evans is going to do an amazing job, and it just that one shot they've released looks stunning. So I'm here for that.
Amazing. Well, I think we should call it a day. It's time to sign off, or get some R&R, as these small soldiers would say.
Great line.
The mission.
Great lines.
The mission is accomplished. I think you've successfully defended the film again. I don't think I like it as much as you, but I think you've done a very good job, sir. So I'd like to congratulate you and debrief.
Well, don't worry, I'm programmed to lose, so it's fine.
I'm also programmed to be a loser, so don't worry about it. We're in good company, and it's nice. It's nice hearing about your childhood, because it sounds very similar to mine and what I've gone through and experienced. Having a single mum, seeing your dad at the weekends, bullied at school. So it's always nice to kind of touch base with someone who's had similar experiences and has similar tastes as well. So I do
from the same thread, brother.
Oh, you know it. So we're gonna go find our own Gorgon. We're going to head off into the sunset, into this wonderful new year, 2021. So I'm hoping some good things will happen, please. Any at all would be nice. Anything would be good to cheer us up. And yeah, but I've got all my digits crossed that this is going to be a killer new year. So I hope everyone is going to have a killer new year. So Ben, you are a famous YouTuber. So where can people find you on the YouTubes?
Well, I'm taking some time out at the moment from the YouTube. I think I've just listed my channel as a YouTube channel right now. But you can search Ben Crampton on YouTube, and I think it will come up with all kinds of tomfoolery. But I'm very active on Instagram, and that's at Attention Seeking Geek. And I post daily comic books, just showing you the bits of paper I have, and various kind of Photoshop tributes to all kinds of obscure comic book characters and movie characters and things like that. It's just, generally speaking, a good place for a geek to hang out. So please do check that out.
I do recommend. I do like looking at Ben's collectibles and his photo edits of various characters you like to cosplay as. I think they're amazing. I think they're really, really good. And I love, again, man of good taste, good comics, good YouTube videos. Again, I know you're not doing anything new at this time at the moment, but there is a good large back catalogue that even I am not through yet. I need to crack on with it because I'm quite far behind. So
well, my ego comes in waves, so I'm sure I'll be putting out some new stuff soon.
Good, because you do have a massive ego. So I like to stroke it. I like to stroke it like a lovely kitten, a lovely nice kitten, or
lick it like a cat licks Archer.
Like a cat. I want to lick your ego like a cat licks a Gorgonite, which sounded dirtier than I thought. Anyway, so talking about myself, because I like to do that. So you can find me at Facebook, it's at Secret Balls. Twitter, it's at Dan_Balls. Instagram, it's SpiderDan Secret Balls. And the podcast is available on all good podcast apps, such as Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, Audible, and many, many more. And if you'd like to donate towards the podcast, you can buy me a coffee at ko-fi.com. Sorry, I can't even say the website. ko-fi.com/SpiderDan and the Secret Balls. And when you interact with us, don't forget to use the hashtag #PrepareForPrattle. And we have prattled on long enough. Join the Prattalion, my and Ben's Prattalion today. Soldier on, soldier through 2021, no matter what happens. But I think it's going to be good. I got a good feeling. So thank you
Show
again.
no mercy to 2021.
Absolutely. Come at it with all guns blazing, and don't fall down the trash chute, trash compactor. Don't get shredded or torn in half by bicycles. All the various injuries. Don't get lit on fire. All those good things. But yeah, look after yourselves. Be good to everyone, and extend that Christmas feeling all year round. But that New Year feeling all year round. Anyway, I'm going. Goodbye, Ben.
Goodbye, Dan.
Bye.